With horror being what it is, death is so frequent that we sometimes forget to pay it any mind. If you take a moment to really focus on it though, you may get one of those tasty moments just before someone bites the bullet, where they realise it's all about to end for them. As morbid as it really is quite entertaining to watch. So I'm Amy from What Culture, and here are the 10 best I'm dead and I know it moments from supernatural horrors. 10. Evan Lewis, Final Destination 2. Poor Evan Lewis spends his final few moments on Earth coming to the realization that his fate is about to be crushed in by a fire escape ladder. It's definitely not the most peaceful way to die. If winning the lottery wasn't already fortunate enough for Evan, he was one of those who was spared from the Route 23 pileup that opened Final Destination 2. Not quite as lucky for the character, he would then be the first of these survivors to be killed off. In one of the more memorable, tense deaths of the 5-movie and counting series, Evan's demise is teased as noodles start to spark in his microwave after a fridge magnet falls in them. He then gets his hand stuck in his sink's garbage disposal unit as his frying pan catches fire, and as said pan is accidentally knocked over, his windows lock and his apartment catches fire. Managing to break the windows with a fire extinguisher, we see as Evan successfully navigates his way down to the pavement, only to then take a moment to rest and have the ladder come crashing down, landing right through his eye. 9. Norman Spencer, What Lies Beneath. Much hyped at its time of release, largely due to the presence of A-listers Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford, Robert Zemeckis' What Lies Beneath is a movie whose themes of control and abuse are just as prevalent today as they were 20 years ago. In What Lies Beneath, Pfeiffer's Claire Spencer starts feeling an eerie presence in the home she shares with her husband Norman. Suspecting it may be the spirit of her suddenly disappeared neighbour reaching out to her, Claire embarks on a mission to unearth the truth behind these spooky shenanigans. By the time What Lies Beneath gets to its final act, we've come to realise that the ghost trying to connect with Claire is that of Madison, a student Norman had an affair with and then murdered. Where it pertains to the I'm dead and I know it part, is when Norman realises his dirty little secret is back from the grave. Having drugged Claire and placed her in the bathtub with the water running, it's here that he first sees the ghostly visage of Madison. As such, it's no major surprise to see Madison drag Norman to his watery death merely 10 minutes later. 8. Mark Bing, The Rage, Carrie 2. In the lore of Carrie, if you're a dickhead, then you are bound to have some telekinetically powered revenge coming your way fairly soon. Whilst Brian De Palma's iconic 1976 Carrie had Carrie White on a roaring rampage of revenge, The Rage, Carrie 2 sees Rachel Lang cracking skulls with telekinesis. Sure, Carrie 2 is an awful movie that nobody asked for, yet there is one particular death that is the stuff of claustrophobic nightmares for so many of us. In 1999's The Rage, it would eventually be explained that Rachel is the younger half-sister of Carrie White, and much like her siblings, she was unfortunately on the receiving end of ridicule from some of her classmates, leading to her causing all kinds of carnage during the film's final act. For ringleader Mark Bing, he ends up being knocked into his own pool, at which point Rachel activates the automatic pool cover to seal him into his watery grave. 7. Dawn from The Girl on the Third Floor. In 2019's Girl on the Third Floor, Phil CM Punk Brooks plays perfectly the role of an absolute slimeball, a slimeball who does get his comeuppance. Here, Brooks's Don moves out into the suburbs with hopes of a fresh start away from his criminal past. Purchasing a dilapidated old house, the plan is for Don to renovate said house ahead of his pregnant wife Liz joining both him and his faithful dog Cooper at the property. Unfortunately, Don has wandering eyes and soon cheats on his wife with supposed neighbour Sarah. When Don then spurns Sarah's follow-up advances, he soon finds her recurring presence to be rather an unsettling one. Of course, whilst all this is happening, we also have goo spewing from the walls, marbles randomly appearing in the house, and the murders of Don's pal Milo and poor Cooper at the hands of Sarah. Where Don realises that shit really has hit the fan mind is during Girl on the Third Floor's final act, when, after killing Sarah and then finding Milo's decapitated head, he's chased by a deformed female figure who attacks him with marbles. As these marbles begin to get under his skin, cheating scumbag Don knows he's done for. 6. Father Malone, The Fog. It's thanks to films like The Fog that John Carpenter is lovingly referred to as the horror master. In Carpenter's 1980 picture, the plot sees the seaside town of Antonio Bay engulfed by a mysterious fog that has brought with it some vengeance-seeking ghost pirates. Said pirates had their ship deliberately sank by Antonio Bay's 6 founding fathers back in 1880, all so that a leper colony would not be set up nearby, and the gold taken from this ship could be used to establish the town. The thing is that now that ship's dead crew are out for revenge, strange. Father Malone realizes that his grandfather was one of those who destroyed the ship, so when he's confronted with the chilling visage of the undead crew, he realizes that he has to offer himself up to sacrifice. Well, that and offer the giant gold cross that's been created using these pirates' treasure. Despite Malone realizing his death was needed here, he's somehow spared as the crew takes the cross and disappears. Unfortunately though for this man of the cloth, the closing shot of the fog does see the crew return and decapitate him, just as he expected. 5. Ellison Oswalt, Sinister. As he starts feeling woozy and then notices a weird substance at the bottom of his coffee cup before foaming at the mouth and dropping to the floor, that's probably when Ellison realised he was done for. Having spent the whole movie scanning through old Super 8 tapes, trying to find the truth behind the mysteries of some old missing children's cases, this true crime writer is himself set to become the latest victim of Bagul and his chilling powers of persuasion. When the patriarch of the Oswalt family finally comes to, he's tied up with his wife Tracy and son Trevor. In front of him is his axe-wielding daughter Ashley, who is filming on an 8mm camera as she soon butchers her parents and sibling with an axe. For Ellison, as soon as he hit the ground with that drugged coffee, he surely knew that Bagul had corrupted his daughter, and consequently knew what fate awaited him and the rest of his family. 4. Jennifer Caulfield, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. Played by Penelope Sudrow, Jennifer Caulfield has a death that is clearly one of the franchise's more memorable ones, but also an indicator of how the Elm Street series was looking to grasp onto mainstream pop culture, as shown by how the franchise would eventually become a winking parody of itself. For mental hospital patient Jennifer, she manages to wangle herself a little bit of solo TV time, but this does come at a cost. As is so often the case with Elm Street Pictures, Sudrow's character soon nods off, finding herself dreaming of becoming a Hollywood starlet. When she goes and hits the TV because it started showing static, mechanical Freddy arms burst from the sides of the set, the head of Robert Englund's Krueger appears, and it's then that Jennifer realizes she's about to become this twisted child killer's latest victim. It's here that one of the very best lines of the movie is delivered, with Krueger grasping her and saying, "It's prime time, bitch," before ending her life. 3. Sophie Lloyd-Welles, Lights Out. Adapted from his own short of the same name, David F. Sandberg's Lights Out is one of the more impressive supernatural horrors in recent memory, and in Diana, Sandberg served up a truly chilling presence. Diana was a girl with a very serious skin condition that made her allergic to sunlight. After an experimental surgery on it went wrong, she ended up dead, and of course came back as a powerful spirit able to get inside people's heads, even convincing her own dad to kill himself. In the present-day setting of Lights Out, it's Sophie, who had befriended the young Diana before her death, who finds herself and her 2 children tormented by Diana. With the movie revealing how Diana is tethered to Sophie, Lights Out ends with her character shooting herself in the head in order to vanquish Diana once and for all. And actually, this moment serves as a 2-for-1 on the I'm dead and I know it front. Obviously, Sophie knows she's dead as Diana lunges at her, but Sophie's daughter Rebecca also has her own moment of realization, acknowledging that if Diana somehow comes back to haunt her, then she's going to have to go out the very same way. 2. Richard Morgan, The Ring. Played by the fantastic Brian Cox, Richard Morgan is the adoptive father of Samara in Gore Verbinski's The Ring. When Rachel first turns up to speak to Richard about his adopted daughter, he completely denies that she exists. While Rachel heads off to do further digging on the mysterious girl that's now stalking her, she's met with a grim sight upon returning to the Morgan household. There, Rachel finds a spooked Richard Morgan who's about to take his own life now that he's been made aware that Samara is once more up to her spooky tricks. Cox gives a phenomenal performance here as a man that knows he's as good as dead, and so he'd rather kill himself than face what's inevitably going to hunt him down. As Rachel gets to witness from the other side of the bathroom, Richard then jumps into a full bath of water whilst connected to an electric plug adapter that's hooked up to all kinds of devices. Hitting the switch on the adapter, this is how Cox's character reaches his very grisly end. 1. Malcolm Crowe, The Sixth Sense. Whilst the rest of this list consists of characters who realise their deaths are very near to them on the horizon, this one switches it up a bit, focusing on Malcolm Crowe, who had a literal moment of "I really am dead and now I totally know it" in The Sixth Sense. This movie sees Bruce Willis's Malcolm as a child psychiatrist who's helping young Cole deal with the visions of the dead, blowing audiences' minds at the time of its 1999 release. The major kicker of The Sixth Sense is the reveal that Malcolm's been dead throughout 95% of the movie and is one of the deceased beings whom Cole is able to communicate with. As this reveal plays out, we get to see Willis's character get the shock realization that he's dead, and the movie then shows several examples of prior scenes that served as Malcolm seeing things only how he wanted to see them, a trait that Cole has previously explained is commonplace with the deceased. Malcolm had actually been killed in the movie's opening moments, and this whole time Shyamalan had been playing us all like puppets.